Rain misted the cracked streets of Toledo, Ohio, on a November night so raw that the damp seemed to sink into the marrow. 16-year-old Eli Grayson stood trembling on the sagging porch of a peeling clapboard house, the only home that had ever existed for him. Until the clock struck 10. Inside, his father's voice thundered, a steelworker's growl forged in rust and whiskey. "You're gay? You don't belong here. Get out." A meaty fist slammed against the doorframe. And behind him, his mother's sob was nothing more than a frail thread. His father ripped the backpack from his hands, spilling clothes onto the wet planks, sending a toothbrush skittering across the warped wood, and crushing a family photo under his boot. "Go!" he bellowed, veins bulging, before slamming the door shut. The deadbolt snapped into place, a gunshot through the drizzle, severing Eli from the only life he had ever known, one of bike grease, Sunday pies, and the naive belief that love might be enough to hold it all together. He stumbled into the street, sneakers splashing in puddles that reflected the sickly glow of the flickering streetlights, frail, just like the trust he had pinned on the people inside that house. His father's words, "Not my son," pounded against his skull like a hammer on raw nerve. His mother's hands twisted in her apron, her voice a fading whisper drowned out by the rain. It had been clear that the truth would hurt. Toledo was not a soft place, not with its factory scars and ringing church bells, but he had hoped for something more. They did not bend. The rain lashed his face, stinging where his father's glare had burned, and he turned toward Riverside Park, its trees a black smear on the horizon. His bag hung heavy with scraps of his former life. 2 shirts, a notebook, a cracked phone, his world now, shrunken to nothing beneath a sky too vast to care. The park was a trap. He sank beneath an oak, its bare branches clawing at the dark, its roots gnarled against the mud. His breath fogged in the cold air, hands numb as they hugged his knees. Then headlights slashed through the night, a police cruiser rolling up, tires grinding against gravel, spitting slush. "Hey, you!" one officer barked, a flashlight blinding him, pinning him in place like a rat in a cage. "No loitering! Move it! Homeless trash!" The siren wailed sharp, splitting the night like his father's roar. He scrambled, his voice cracking as he stammered, "I've got nowhere." But the baton tapped against the hood of the cruiser, boots thudding as he bolted, his bag slapping against his back. They chased him to the fence, lights flashing red through the mist, their voices a chorus hammering his ears. He ducked into an alley, rain pooling at his feet, the stink of a dumpster curling thick in the air. The city had bared its teeth at him, and he was nothing more than another stray it refused to keep. As the night deepened, wind howled through Toledo's bones, factories groaning low, the Maumee River lapping cold beyond the trees, slumped against a brick wall. The chill seeped through his hoodie, his breath forming a small, fading cloud in the dim light. His father's growl, his mother's tears, the scream of the siren, all of it had branded him an outcast, a speck in a town too hardened to hold on to him. The city loomed, its lights faint, its streets endless, the river a dark vein cutting through its heart. As the rain dripped off his nose, he wondered where one was supposed to crawl when every door had been slammed shut, when the city itself seemed to whisper, "You don't belong." The gut-wrenching opening hook hit hard. Smash that like, share with someone who's ever felt cast aside. And subscribe to Heartstories. Eli's fight is just beginning. Winter sank its jagged teeth into Toledo, Ohio, the December wind howling through streets scarred by shuttered factories. But Eli Grayson felt a colder bite than the frost rimming his threadbare hoodie. 4 days since his father's "Get out," and the cops' sirens hounded him from Riverside Park. He had become a phantom, 16, wiry and wasted, his backpack a tattered lifeline slung over his shoulder. Toledo didn't flinch, its pulse a grind of tires on icy asphalt, smokestacks belching gray into a sky that swallowed him whole. He had tried every refuge, park benches slick with sleet, alleys stinking of piss, a rusted bus stop by the Maumee River, each a fleeting shield until boots or flashlights drove him out. A queer kid branded trash in a town too brutal to blink. The streets were a gauntlet. He shuffled down Cherry Street, hood pulled tight, eyes darting for a scrap, hunger a claw shredding his gut since yesterday's dumpster donut, its glaze a sour smear on his cracked lips. Faces blurred past, Shopkeepers in heavy coats scowling from doorways. Kids giggling as they darted around him, their mother's stares slicing through him like he was filth-caked on their boots. A diner owner, his apron grease-stained, barked, "No bums here," when he lingered near his bins, broom swinging wild. Its bristles grazed his arm as he bolted, legs trembling, breath fogging in the biting air. He ducked into an alley, the stink of rot and wet cardboard curling thick, and clawed through a dumpster, half a sandwich, mold creeping green, a bruised pear leaking juice. He ate fast, crouched low, snow dusting his hair, the taste bitter but alive. Toledo didn't feed its strays. Not him. Not the gay kid with no name left to claim. Night unleashed the wolves. He had staked a corner under a viaduct near downtown, concrete icy against his back. The river's low hum a drone beneath when they came, 3 shadows in parkas, boots crunching through frozen puddles. "Look, the fag," one sneered, his voice a jagged shard, and Eli froze, backpack clutched tight to his chest. "You're that Grayson queer, trash don't sleep here." Another laughed, his breath a cloud of cheap beer as he hurled a bottle, glass shattered inches from Eli's head, shards cutting his cheek, blood warm against the chill. He scrambled to his feet. "I'm not hurting you." His voice cracked, raw, but a fist slammed his jaw. A boot cracked his ribs, pain exploding white-hot as he hit the ground. There, "Get lost," a roar drowning the river's whisper. They kicked his bag, notebook spilling, pages tearing under their heels, a photo of his mother fluttering free, and one stomped it, mud grinding her smile to nothing. He curled tight, blood pooling under his face, their laughs fading into the dark, leaving him a heap, ribs screaming, the viaduct tomb swallowing his groan. The law struck next. Dawn broke, gray and merciless, the sky a slab of lead as he limped along Summit Street, cheeks swollen, hands numb, when a cruiser screeched up, tires spitting slush. Same cop from the park, his flashlight glinting like a predator's eye. "You again?" he growled, grabbing Eli's arm, twisting till he yelped, his grip iron through his sleeve. "Assault report. Guess who's the problem?" Eli choked. "They hit me. Look," pointing to his face, blood crusted, but the cop smirked. "You're the filth-stirring shit," and snapped cuffs on, metal biting his wrists, cold seeping deep. The station loomed, a squat brick hulk, its doors creaking as he was shoved in, cell stinking of piss and vomit, bars icy as the officers, "You don't belong here." They locked him in, no call, no blanket, just a night of shivering on a concrete bench. The clang of keys a taunt till dawn. A guard tossed him out, "Stay gone," and he hit the curb, ribs afire he couldn't douse, cheek a throbbing knot. Toledo's justice, jailing him for breathing, a gay stray they'd rather crush. Weeks bled into a haze, the city a beast chewing him slow. He scavenged, bread crusts from a bakery's trash, a half-eaten apple by the tracks, slept where he could, under bridges or in doorways, cops rousing him with "Move it" every gray morning. He had been a son, bike grease on his hands, his mother's pies warm on Sundays, his father's gruff nod when he'd fixed the shed. Now he was this, a shadow dodging fists and flashlights, branded wrong by blood and badges. One night, under a flickering streetlight near the old glass plant, he scratched into his torn notebook. No city keeps its ghosts, just spits them out to rot, pencil stub grinding, ink smudging with snowmelt and a tear he wouldn't let fall. Blood crusted his lip, wind rattling his bones through the hoodie's holes, and he stared at the river, black, endless, a mirror to his nothing. Toledo loomed, factories dark, lights distant, and he wondered, how do you stand when they all see trash? When every street wants you gone? He sat, small and stubborn, a kid they couldn't erase, not yet. January cloaked Toledo, Ohio, in a shroud of ice, the wind slicing through the city's rusted veins like a knife through burlap. But Eli Grayson felt a chill deeper than the snow crusting his torn hoodie and clinging to his frayed jeans. 3 weeks since his father's "Get Out," and Toledo's fists branded him trash, he had become a wraith, 16, ribs bruised from boots, his backpack a shadow slung over his shoulder, its straps digging into his skin. The viaduct was his lair, concrete cold as a crypt, The Maumee rivers murmur a low drone beneath, each night a battle to breathe. Hunger gnawing his gut since a stale bagel scavenged from a deli bin 2 days back. Its salt a faint memory on his cracked lips. He had lost the park to sirens, the alleys to wolves. His notebook, torn and smudged with alley grime. The last shard of himself they couldn't kick away. He had hit bottom. A gay kid with no roof. No kin. Just a pencil stub and a page to prove he wasn't gone. A whisper against the dark ready to swallow him whole. That morning broke, gray and punishing. The sky a slab of steel pressing down as he trudged to a soup kitchen off Adams Street. A church basement. Its neon cross buzzing a faint, flickering promise through the snow. His sneakers squelched slush, laces dragging wet, and he slipped through the door, the air thick with the steam of broth, the tang of damp coats, and the murmur of hollowed voices. Eyes flicked his way, faces gaunt like his, etched with cold and want, but he kept his head low, weaving past a line of hunched shoulders to grab a bowl from a table sagging under dented pots. The soup splashed in, thin, brown, flecked with carrots, steam curling up as he sank to a corner near a cracked radiator, its heat a weak pulse against his back. His hands shook, spoon clattering on the rim, and he pulled his notebook from his bag. No city keeps its ghosts. Scratching jagged lines with a pencil nub, ink bleeding under his thumb as snowmelt dripped from his hood. Words were his tether. Poems from a kid who'd once dreamed of bike trails and starlit roofs, now a shield against the void clawing at him. She came then, a shadow falling over his bowl, her boots scuffing the worn tile. He flinched, ribs twinging. Another cop, another kick, but looked up to Rosa, a wiry woman in her 40s, gray streaks threading her braid, eyes sharp as flint under a faded red scarf. "You right," she said, voice rough like gravel scraped over glass, and he froze, notebook snapping shut, its pages crinkling under his grip. "Yeah," he muttered, throat dry as dust, expecting a shove or a scoff. Nobody cared. Not out here. She sat across from him, unbothered by the bench's splintered edge digging into her jeans, and nodded at the closed book. "That's something, kid like you. Out here." Still scratching, the cook slopped more soup into a pot, his bowl empty, and she waved him over. "Fill it." Her voice a quiet command as steam rose again. Then she slid a book across the table, a battered law text. Its cover faded blue, spine cracked like it had been tossed and forgotten. "Found it in a bin by the library," she rasped, tapping it with a scarred finger. "I was you once, streets. No one. 16 and starving. They're wrong about you. Learn to fight 'em back." He stared, broth cooling in his hands. Nobody helped. Not cops who had cuffed him. Not shelters with their no room, but she leaned in, elbows on the table, her scarf slipping to show a tattooed wrist, faint and blurred. "Name's Rosa, social worker now. Homeless then. Slept under that bridge you're at, saw you there. Bleeding." His cheek throbbed. "A bruise from the wolves?" And he scoffed. "Fight? I can't even eat." She didn't blink, eyes locking onto his. "You've got grit, I saw it when they didn't. I clawed out with this." She tapped the book again. "Laws bend if you know 'em. Study. Climb." Her voice dropped, a warning edge cutting through. "But hide who you are till you're strong. World ain't ready for you yet." Who he was, gay, broken, astray, she saw it, carved in his hollow stare, and he felt it. A spark flickering in the ash, sharp and dangerous. A rope tossed down a well he might drown in. The basement buzzed, spoons clinking against tin, a cough rasping from the line, the radiator hissing faint, and he gripped the book, its weight a dare sinking into his palms. "Why me?" he rasped, ribs aching as he shifted, his voice barely above the steam. She shrugged, scarf slipping further, revealing a scar snaking up her arm. "Saw myself down. Not out. 16 with a chip like yours. Lost someone because I didn't fight. Won't watch it again. You've got fire, don't let it die." Her voice cracked. A wound he couldn't trace, lost someone. "Who?" And she stood, tossing a pencil stub beside the book, its eraser chewed flat. "Start there, don't quit." "Eli." She knew his name, how, and walked off, braid swaying, her boots fading into the crowd, leaving him with a text. a chance, and a question, salvation or a leash. He had been a dreamer, bike wheels spinning, poems under stars. Now he was this, a stray sniffing at crumbs. But her words lit something, a flint striking in the dark he couldn't shake. He stumbled back to the viaduct that night, snow piling soft on the river's edge, the book tucked in his bag, Rose's gift, a weight against his chest where the wolves had kicked. He traced its cover, fingers numb through torn gloves, the basement's warmth a fading echo in his bones. No city keeps its ghosts. He scratched again, pencil grinding the page, but added, till a spark burns through, a flicker, not a blaze, just a crack in the ice. Toledo loomed, river black, lights cold, factories a distant groan, but this was something, fragile as hell. A thread he'd cling to. The wind howled, snow rattling his hoodie, and he curled under the concrete, book pressed tight, wondering, could he rise from this, or would it bury him deeper? He didn't know, not yet. October draped Toledo, Ohio, in a fiery amber, the Maumee River glinting under a sky taut with autumn's edge. But Eli Grayson stood taller than the city's rusted skeleton. 36, sharp in a navy suit, his name scrawled on ballots that had swept him to a victory too loud to ignore. 20 years since his father's get out, and Toledo's wolves had branded him trash. He had risen, lawyer, advocate, now mayor-elect, his oath set for the courthouse steps under a sun that burned away the shadows of his past. The streets had once spat him out, viaduct nights of sleet and fists, sirens chasing him through alleys, but today, he would claim them. A gay kid turned leader staring down the ghosts who had cast him aside. The crowd swelled, thousands now. Hats bobbing, signs swaying, Eli for Toledo, clashing with no queer mayor, the air thick with cheers and jeers. A storm he had brewed, his heart hammering like a drum against his ribs as he climbed the podium, suit crisp, palms slick with sweat. It had started with Rose's book, law scratched in a soup kitchen's dim glow, nights hunched over library desks in a coat too thin, his pencil a blade carving a path through the dark. He had hidden gay, broken behind textbooks and grit, clawing through college on scholarships patched together like his old hoodie. Then law school. Rose's fight back a fire he stoked with every page. Years defending Toledo's strays, addicts shivering in doorways, runaways with bruised eyes, homeless men he had once mirrored, built his name, a murmur growing loud, Eli Grayson, the voice for the forgotten, the lawyer who sued cops and won. The campaign had been a crucible, flyers plastered on lampposts, debates in church basements. His "This City's for All" a vow that split the vote down its spine. He had knocked doors, old steelworkers glaring, young moms nodding, rallies in parking lots. His voice hoarse over megaphones, "I was you, cold." Kicked out. "We fix this together." Opponents sneered. "He's a fag." A radical, but the tide turned. Votes ticking up on election night. Screens flashing his face. Landslide. Toledo's outcast, now its ruler, ready to rewrite its bones. The swearing in was a furnace. He stepped up, the courthouse looming, gray stone pocked by time, its columns casting long shadows over the steps where a judge who had once jailed him now sat, lips tight. The crowd pressed close, workers in flannel, kids in hoodies, old guards in caps, cameras rolling, mics poised. "I?" Eli Grayson, in his voice, rang out, steady despite the tremor in his chest, oath echoing over the throng. "Swear to serve this city." Applause erupted, a wave crashing, but eyes locked onto his, old cops lurking at the edges, badges glinting like knives. The diner owner who had swung his broom now clutching a sign, "Go back." Neighbors who had spat "fag" decades back stood rigid, their wives whispering venom. He gripped the mic, breath sharp as glass, and let it loose. "I'm gay. Always was. This city kicked me out. Called me trash. Cops cuffed me. Folks beat me, but I'm here now. You're mayor. No one's trash anymore, not on my watch." The air split, half roaring, fists pumping. "Eli! Eli!" half booing. "You don't belong!" Slicing through like a blade, Toledo torn wide, his truth a torch flung into its heart. They surged, cops stepping forward, faces flushed. One barking, "Still a punk." The same officer who had cuffed him under the viaduct. His baton now useless, his snarl hollow. A woman shrieked, "Go back to the gutter." Her voice a shard from his alley days. Her husband hurling a soda can, sticky fizz splattering his shoes. Kids in hoodies pushed back. "He's ours!" Their signs high. Eli for all. A skinny girl with braids yelling, "You don't scare us." Cameras flashed. Toledo's first gay mayor vows change. Reporters jostling. Pens racing. The crowd a tempest he couldn't quell. He pressed on, voice rising over the chaos. New laws, shelters for the lost. No bias from badges. A city that keeps its own. I was you, cold, bleeding under bridges. Not again, not ever. Cheers swelled. Drowning the booze. But a bottle sailed, glass shattering at his feet. A cop smirking as it hit. His partner muttering, "Freak." He stood firm, suit dusted with shards, eyes blazing. Toledo's past faced him, snarling, and he faced it back. Unbowed. The council chambers boiled after, suits arguing. His desk buried under drafts, ban loitering arrests. Fund Haven Park, rewrite the code that had crushed him. Half the room clapped, young aides with tattoos, workers he had pulled from cells, half glared, old guards in ties hissing. He'll ruin us. A police chief, grizzled and red-faced, slammed his fist. You can't erase order, streets need control. Eli shot back. Voice steel. Order broke me, jailed me for breathing. It's done breaking anyone. Votes teetered, counselors sweating. His pen poised, then passed. A razor-thin win. Laws bending under his hand. A city cracking open to breathe. Outside, protests raged. Fag mayor out, on pickets clashing with Eli's stays. Chants, Toledo split. His face plastered on every screen. A war he had ignited with every word. He had risen, notebook to gavel. Viaduct to victory, but the ghosts lingered. There, you don't belong. A hiss he would turn to dust. Dusk fell. The courthouse steps hushed, river glinting gold. Crowd dispersed, his suit wrinkled from the fray, tie loose around his neck. He stood there, oath a weight in his chest. Toledo's pulse a hum he had seized, mayor. A title forged from sleet and blood, from nights he had nearly snapped. The viaduct loomed in memory, ribs cracked, cops sneering. His father's roar, but he had faced them, named them, defied them with every step to this stage. The city stretched beyond, half his, half raging, and he gripped the podium's edge. Splinters biting his palms. A kid they had trashed now ruling their game. Change was coming, laws shifting. Shelters rising, but the past stared back. Unblinking, could he bury it? Or would it claw him down? He didn't flinch, not yet. November softened Toledo, Ohio, with a fragile gold. The Maumee River shimmering under a sky shedding its last leaves. But Eli Grayson stood firm, 36, mayor in a rumpled suit. His city a canvas he had vowed to repaint. A month since his oath split Toledo, half cheering, half raging. He had fought through council wars, his desk a battlefield of ink and grit. Today, he signed it, Bill 47, banning bias against the homeless, funding Haven Park where Riverside once spat him out. The pen scratched, a sound sharper than the sirens he had fled, and he leaned back. Office quiet, the weight of 20 years lifting slow. Toledo's outcast now its shaper, a gay man who had turned their trash to law. It wasn't clean. Protests lingered. Fag mayor out, scrawled on walls. Bricks through his window. But the tide turned. Haven Park rose, tents swapped for shelters. Kids he had defended now staff. Their thanks. Eli a hum against the jeers. Council bent. Votes tipped. Old cops grumbled but obeyed. His gavel fell. Laws shifted. A city forced to see its ghosts. He had walked those steps, viaduct nights, wolves' fists. His father's get out, and built this, a haven from the curb he had known. Toledo hummed beyond, factories alive, river steady, and he had ruled it. Not with hate, but a hand they couldn't break. Then he came, a shadow at Haven's opening. Eli stood on a makeshift stage, ribbon cut, crowd clapping, park lights glowing when his father shuffled up, gray and bent, his steelworker's hands gnarled by time. No badge flanked him. No broom swung, just him. Coat patched, eyes sunken under a cap Eli had fixed at 10. He froze. Mike slipping, 20 years since you don't belong? His growl a scar Eli had carried. His father climbed the steps. Slow. Crowd hushing, and stopped. Inches away, his breath ragged, Eli's ribs tight from old kicks. Eli, he rasped, voice cracked, and laid a trembling hand on his shoulder. No hug, no words beyond I was wrong, a whisper rough as rust. Eli broke, tears hot, Mike catching his choke. The crowd gasped. Some clapped, some stared. His father didn't kneel, didn't beg, just stood, hand heavy, then turned, shuffling back to the dusk. No apology polished it. His mother gone, years lost. His wrong a shard, not a salve, but it hit, deep. A crack in Eli's wall. He wiped his face, voice steadying. This park's for us, all of us. Cheers rose. Haven glowed, shelters, benches, a sign, welcome home. And he saw it. The oak he had hidden under, now a centerpiece. Roots he had reclaimed. Toledo hadn't bowed, not fully, but he had bent it. Laws and hearts, a mayor who had turned their no to yes. Night fell, Haven's lights a beacon, river glinting. City softer, his office a perch above it all. His father's touch lingered, not peace, not whole, but a thread through the scars. Family lost, then glimpsed, a wound Eli would carry still. He had changed Toledo, laws signed. Strays sheltered, but his father's wrong echoed. A gift he hadn't sought. The oak stood tall below. Haven hummed. And he leaned on his desk, pen idle. A gay kid's dream now rule. He had risen. Ruled. Healed something, city and soul, but the past clung. A shadow he couldn't shake. This ain't just power. It's rewriting pain into hope. Can you heal what broke you? Tell me below. If Eli's stand moved you, smash that like share with someone who's fought back, and subscribe to Heartstories. We need you to keep this alive.